Well, that's good. Now let's go back a little farther. You're telling us before we start some of your high school experience. Remind me of that.
High school?
Yes.
Well, I went to what was really, we would call today a charter school. Western Michigan at that time was called a normal school. And the children of professors could go there free, but there weren't enough faculty to make a sizable school. They needed some other kids. So it was the door was opened. It was made open to parents like my father who could put his children in this school, the normal school, with grades 1 to 8, and then a high school called University High. And my father paid a modest tuition, and I and my brother and 2 sisters all went to the normal school. We had the benefit of the college faculty. I took 4 years of Latin, and 2 years of German, and I had college professors. I played in the clarinet, and I was in the Western Michigan band, went to all of the football games in the various towns where we played. Actually, I had a college education while I was in high school.
No wonder you've done so well.
Yeah.
Then Kalamazoo College, as I recall, that's one of the early ones that encouraged students to go out of the country the 3rd year. Am I correct on that?
That is right. That occurred, though, after I had left. That occurred because of the beneficence of some of the Upjohn people, and Dr. Rudolph Light made a very high grant to the college, which made this all possible.
Yeah. Well, now we've got you in the council. Tell us when you got involved in CONCON.
I made the mistake running for a 5th term as mayor. My wife, Virginia, advised me not to do it, but I did, and I didn't run first. I ran 3rd. I was elected to the council, but I was no longer the mayor. I felt rather bad about it until 6 weeks went by and the phone rang. And the voice said, "This is George Romney." He said, "I've heard about you." And he said, "I've started a new organization called Citizens for Michigan, CFM. He said, "I want you to come and be one of my 3 top officials. I want you to be in charge of getting a constitutional convention." Now he said, "I can't pay you anything." And I said, "Well, I'm used to that. As mayor of the city, I was paid $500 a year for my first 4 years. And then they felt sorry and they tripled it. I was paid $1,500 a year. Well, my wife, Virginia, spoke French fluently, and she worked part-time as a substitute teacher teaching French. So I said, "All right, I'll come and we'll try it out." So
Go ahead. Is that the first time you'd heard George Romney or met him?
That's the first time I had met George Romney. I had heard of him and I knew about CFM, but it was very distant.
Do you know who recommended you to him to be one of the top officers?
Someone recommended me to him. I don't know just how it all came about, but I did serve as one of his 3 top people.
Yeah.
Another one who was in charge of finance was right here from Lansing, was Howard Stoddard of the Michigan National Bank. And the 3rd role was never really filled. It never got off the ground. It concerned the level of services for the state of Michigan. Was the state doing enough or doing too much? Well, we got in such a battle to try and get CONCON, we never got onto that 3rd subject.
Yeah. Now, you were one of the three key people for George Romney.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you worked with him or what the relationship was?
What we would do is we would hold a monthly meeting in Detroit at the American Motors headquarters or at one of the hotels in the Detroit area. And I would go over the night before the meeting and stay overnight in the hotel, and at breakfast time meet with Ed Cushman, who was vice president of American Motors. He was formerly a professor of economics, I think at Wayne University, and a very astute man, well versed in Michigan government. He did the planning work for Citizens for Michigan. He was really the chief of staff. Romney was the head of it, but the chief of staff who had to keep the machine moving was Ed Cushman.
Now, I think Ed's wife was very active in the League of Women Voters.
Yes.
Was she involved with your committee at that point?
No, I never really knew his wife, Kay Cushman, until she became a delegate to the Constitutional Convention, and then I was very pleased because I felt like I already knew her through her husband.
Sure.
But I didn't know her before.
Yeah. Oh, what organization supported CONCON?
The League of Women Voters was a strong supporter of CONCON, and the Junior Chamber of Commerce was also a supporter. The League of Women Voters was really the first organization. It was supporting a constitutional convention long before Citizens for Michigan.
Yeah.
But the problem the League of Women Voters had is there weren't enough League of Women Voters. Not every county in Michigan had a League of Women Voters. There were relatively few, so if I could use the word manpower for League of Women Voters, they probably wouldn't like that. They were short on woman power, let's put it that way.
Yeah. They were an outgrowth of the old suffragette movement, the League of Women Voters.
They did the best they could, but the drive to secure enough signatures to get this thing on the ballot was failing, despite the best efforts of the League of Women Voters. And so Ed Cushman and George Romney collectively said, we have got to turn all our efforts over to getting enough signatures and getting them within the next 3 months. Maybe it was even 60 days.
Who was the one that actually headed up the petition drive?
My committee.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then did you pay for signatures? Or did you get
No, we didn't pay for signatures.
Didn't pay for any signatures.
What we succeeded in doing, I think it was Ed Cushman who came up with the idea of asking the Michigan Educational Association, the teachers, to go out and each get a petition with 30 signatures. Yeah. And I took about 50,000 signatures over to the St. Mary's Camp. St. Mary's Camp is just east of Battle Creek.
You mean petitions?
Petitions.
Yeah.
And they were distributed to all the teachers in the state of Michigan. And within 6 weeks, we had a tremendous number of signatures. And that was what qualified the question. There were really two questions. The question, should there be a constitutional convention, and whether a majority who voted at the election would carry the issue.
Yeah, because in the past, a majority had voted for it, but not a majority of the voters voting.
Of those voting
Am I
at the
correct on
election.